This tutorial is just a continuation of my draw with a mouse using GImp for animation. And in that particular tutorial, I made this drawing, and I basically just traced over it. And the method to do that is using the path tool. And if you follow along in that tutorial, you'll see how to do that. Basically, what we've done is we've created paths for the legs, dress, arm, and head. Say here for the head, and then we stroke that path, and we do that in different layers. So what I did is I thought I'd have a better go, and what I've done is I've done this again, and I've created a right leg and a left leg and a body and one arm. And what I did is I basically painted this arm, and then I copied and pasted and just made it a little smaller and put it behind the body on a layer. So what you can do is you can see the right arm here, you can see the body, and you can see the left arm. And the whole idea is that we'll be able to animate that. And so you can see here, if I'm going to rotate that arm, and I change the rotation point here, and I move it out, and I rotate it, you can see that the arm will rotate out. And that's exactly what we want. Now, you have a choice when you save things out. You can go in and go to the layer and go auto crop layer, and it'll make it basically only as big as it is. The problem is then you're going to have to line that up later in animation, say in Synfig or Anime Studio. So that's basically where we are. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this girl out in different parts, and then we're going to animate her later. But another thing that we want to do is we're going to want to do maybe some mouths or lip syncing. And I've got some mouths here that I've created for a different character, and they happen to be going the opposite way, but we'll deal with that in animation. And they are the size of the picture, which might not be good for what we want to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy all of the mouths in, and then just going to create different layers here. Now, unfortunately, the recording software doesn't allow me to move into this layer group. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop, and I'm going to come back, and then they'll be in the layer group. So one second. So we're back. And the reason why I put this into a layer group is that when they're in a layer group, I can choose the layer group, and then I can go layer, auto crop layer. And what it'll do is it'll go through each one of the layers and make them the size of the biggest one in here. So that means all of these layers are now the size of the biggest one. And that makes it easy for me to get them all the same size. So that way I know when I save them out that I can overlay them on top of each other in my animation program, and they're all going to like center up. So then I can get my image, and I can auto crop my image, and now I can start saving them out. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you quickly a few of them, what I would do. So this is, each of these mouths are phonemes, and there's a certain bunch of file names that we like to use, and it's the Papagayo file names, and there's a Papagayo tutorial on my channel on how to use it, and you need to have these 10 file names. Now some of the actual pictures are basically duplicates, and this is basically from Domix and some other cartoon solutions. This is their interpretations. So what we're going to do is we're going to save a few of them out. So I'm just going to export this as AI, and they have to be PNGs. And I'll just save another one out. E. Now I'm going to go through behind the scenes and save the rest of them out, etc. FV, L, M, MBP, O, REST, U, and WQ. And we'll come back. All right, now you can see that this was the originals, and these are the new ones. And these are just the mouths. Now if we go back to the first ones, you'll find that they're much smaller because they're in a bigger image. So what we've done is we basically made the image a lot smaller. So that's just easier for us. Now what we could do is we could take one of these and drag it into our image. So let's just find our image here and get a mouse. Say this one, drag it up there. And it's gone below a layer, so we'll just drag it up to the top. And as you can see, it's a little big, but what we'll do is we'll move it, transform it, rotate it a bit, just make it a little smaller for fun. This is just to see how it's going to look. We'll fix all this in animation. And that looks pretty good. So we're going to see that the mouth is actually going to kind of match up here. So I'm going to delete that. Don't need that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take our girl here and I'm going to split her up into different pieces. So, and save them out. So for animation, so I don't really need that. And we're going to get rid of the background as well. So I'm going to export them out and then I'm going to bring them back in and I'm going to make them smaller. So we'll just export out a few pieces so you can see what's going on. So this is the left leg, so we'll export. And we'll export the right leg. And we'll now export the right arm. And the body. And I'm using PNGs, and PNGs work better because they allow transparency. Yeah, maybe I've got it wrong here. Let's see, there's the right arm. Let's try that again. So we got the right arm. There we go. Place that. And then let's do the left arm. Now you could have actually only done one arm and brought it into your animation program twice and just made it a bit smaller. And then we have our head. So that's all the parts exported out. So just save that just in case we made any changes. Okay, now we're going to bring each part in and we're going to, oops, the wrong spot, over here. And we're going to auto crop it. And then we're just basically going to overwrite it. And you need to do that for every part. You don't need to save it as a, speak a little quicker. So image, auto crop, overwrite. Unfortunately, there's no quick way to do this. And you don't really have to do this if you don't want to. You just have to set the pivot point on your in Synfig or whatever you're using on your animation program. So nearly done. And as you can see here now, all the parts are much smaller. Right, so we're going to take this girl in. We're going to try and animate her. Okay, so quickly, what I've done is I found some girl talking on the YouTube, downloaded that, cut it up in Audacity, then I've saved it as a WAV file, and I need as a WAV file for Papagayo. And I've also saved it out as an MP3 because I need MP3 for Synfig. So basically she's saying something like this.
Hey, so I've been given some questions to answer for you today.
Whatever. And we're going to plug that in. And now I'm going to do quickly go into Papagayo and match up the phonemes, our mouths, to whatever was spoken. So I've got my little script here, what the girl said, and we're going to Papagayo. First, we're going to get our WAV file, drag it into Papagayo. Then we get our script, take that, put that into Papagayo, and then we're going to have to move this stuff around. Now, if you want to know how to do that, I have other tutorials on the web, and there's other tutorials on how to do Papagayo. So I'm going to quickly boot through this, and then we'll come back. Okay, after a lot of messing around, I've managed to get the text to the speech, and this is what we get.
Hey, so I've been given some questions to answer for you today. What type of underwear do I prefer to wear and why? Definitely black, because black is used.
Anyways, you can see that matches up. So what we're going to do is we're going to export it out as a .dat file, and we'll save that, and we'll come back and we'll get that file, and we just have to open it with Notepad, and I haven't associated that with yet, so we'll do that right now. There we go. Right, so first of all, what we're going to have to do is put in FPS 24 for the frames per second, and PNG. And this is the type of file type we're going to use. And then we need to save that out as a .lst file for Synfig. Now, if you're using Anime Studio, then you would just keep the .dat file. So I'm just going to change that to .lst and save that out. And that's all we need for the voice, and then we can go into Synfig and animate. Okay, we got Synfig up. Now we're going to bring in the body parts. Now it might be better to helpful if you actually put the original picture into Synfig, and then you can just basically put the other pieces on top of it. And let's see what's going on here. Okay, let's get the body, and basically we'll just get all the bits. There we go. Now we're going to have to put them in order, so the left arm goes below the body. And the legs go below the body as well. And the right leg is in front of the left leg. So let's just grab the leg here. So let's just start getting rid of some of these things so we can see what's going on. Okay, so let's have a look at the leg. Let's move the leg down. And that one goes over there. Move this leg. So that one looks like it goes like right about there. This one, just move it up a bit. Another good thing is that we can rotate them if we like. And now we just get the head, and that's got to go above everything. Let's just move our picture around here. Now, unfortunately, Synfig is not the fastest program. It doesn't really work that well in real time like we'd expect it to. Now, I've got a slow machine, so that could be a part of the problem. And let's get our arm here. And our left arm. Now, we won't be able to see our left arm, so we'll get rid of the body, and we can see where probably whereabouts it's got to go. Oops, that was the body, so we'll go down on our left arm, move that over, and let's bring in the body again, and then we can just click on the arm here, and we can just roughly figure out where it's got to go. Now we might want to rotate it a bit. And I'm not quite sure which one of these rotates it. Oh, there we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to give bones to this girl. So I would say that's probably pretty good, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to bring the arm above the body so we can see where we want it. Probably about there. And then we'll put it back down. So that's pretty good. Now another thing we need to do, I noticed, is we put our list file and it's not near our mouths, so we have to drop that into the same directory. And then we could bring that over here, and that's going to actually have the mouths. Oops, hold on, let's drag it in here. Here we go. And there's our voice. And now we can see that we've got it over here. Now we don't really want that, so I'm going to transform that. I'm going to come into here, the scale, and I think I'm going to put a minus in front here like that. Oops, no, I'm not going to do it there. I'm going to do it on the voice. Sorry, make sure you do it on the right one. Now I'm doing it on the actual list, so you don't see each individual mouth thing. It somehow that gets loaded in the background. And as you can see, it's flipped it around. And then I'm going to move this up. Going to zoom in a little bit. Going to tilt it. See what it looks like. And we're going to scale it down a little bit. What we're going to do is we're going to go through here and just kind of see there we go. You can see it's changing. Right, now that's looking pretty good. Another thing we can do is drag in our voice, and I'm going to drag that in. And now we can do a preview. And we'll do that at 24 frames per second. Now I don't know how long this is going to be, so I'm just going to do for 120 frames. Now I'm going to stop while it renders, because it'll take a little bit of a while, so I'll be back. Okay, so here is the quick render.
Hey, so I've been given some questions.
Now it looks like the lip syncing is not exactly correct. So, you know, I might have to do a bit of messing around. Now, I'm not much of a synfig fan, and I've used the Anime Studio Debut, and I think for 50 bucks, Anime Studio Debut is well worth it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this girl and I'm going to animate her in Anime Studio Debut, and you can see how well it's going to work. And you can see, but the whole point of this exercise is to create drawings in GIMP for animation, and how you animate is entirely up to you. You could use, you know, After Effects or whatever. So this is basically just for, you know, animating characters. So I'm going to animate this one in Anime Studio. Okay, so here's a quick render in Synfig without any animation, but here's the mouth going, and I've just put some words up here to it's a program I've created to allows me to do some synchronization, make sure it's all working.
Hey, so I've been given some questions to answer for you today. What type of underwear do I prefer to wear and why? Definitely black, because black is really sleek.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to animate it in Anime Studio. Okay, we're in Anime Studio. We're going to import all the parts of the girl's body here. Now this is a 1080p template that I've downloaded off the Anime Studio website. and because Anime Studio Debut does not do 1080p naturally, so you're going to have to if you want to do 1080p, that's one way to do it. And I'm just going to organize the layers. Now for this I'm going to rotate it a bit just so I can see it. And then I'm going to line it up over here. The left leg, I can't see it at all, so I'll just bring it down. And hopefully I've got enough at the top here so when I move the leg it doesn't show the upper part. So this is pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a bone layer. And unfortunately I'm not going to name it like I should. And here we go. And then I'm going to add some bones. First of all, I'm going to add just kind of like a moving bone. And I'm not quite sure what I want to add that. I think maybe I'll just move that. Let's transform it. Where are we here? There we go. Okay. Let me add some more bones. This one's going to tilt the body. This one's going to do this arm. And the B key, and then select the bone, and then A for add bone. And there, and B key to select the bone, and A to add another bone for the head. And then B to select this bone, and then A to add a bone down here. B to select this bone, A to add a bone here. Now I have a feeling that's probably not exactly correct, so we're going to go over here. I'm just going to move it, oops, there. These look probably about right. Then we're going to have to assign the bone to each part of the body. And we can do that with clicking on the layer and then using this over here, which is the, come on, attach layer to bone. And we're going to select the bone, right arm. And this is really quick, which is good. And we can test it out. And it looks like our pivot point here is not exactly right. We need to bring this up a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up here to the bone. I'm going to transform the bone right, probably, let's get rid of the body for a second so we can see. Right there. I would expect we're probably going to want to do exactly the same for the right arm. Yep, hold on. Transform the bone, get this one. Right up, and we just move that right over there. The legs, get them right. I'm gonna make sure we got that for the head as well, and let's just see how the head goes. That looks like a rig character. That looks pretty good. So next what we want to do is we want to bring in the mouths, and I believe we need to do a switch layer. I can't remember how to do this. One second, I'll come back. Okay, now I remember how to do mouths. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a switch layer. We can call this mouths. And then we need to actually bring the mouths in. Now I've got my mouths in a folder here. And unlike Synfig, you don't really need to have the mouths and the files in the same directory where the Synfig uses a .dat file. But what you do need to do is you need to rename them so that they match up with the actual, what is in the file. So let me just show you what's in the file. It says rest, etc. E. So our names here are PNGs. So we have to remove the .png in order for it to work. I'll just quickly whip through them and come back. So what I've done is I've renamed the mouth layers so that they coincide with the voice1.dat, the data file that's going to have all the mouth movements. Now, as you can see, we've got a mouth here. So what we're going to do is we are going to double click on it, and we're going to flip it horizontally. And now then we're going to move it. Layer move it into the right spot, zoom in a bit, rotate this a bit, and we're going to need to scale it for sure. Right, now for the mouths, we need to find it. We need to get the .dat file, and here we go. And we load that in, and that will actually show what mouths should be at each particular spot. And it's going through. Now let's have a look. One last thing we need to do is need to get the voice, and I'm not quite sure if WAV or MP3 works better, so I'm just going to put the MP3 in. And that doesn't matter where that goes. And I've put it in the middle, so I don't want to do that, so I'm going to Control Z that out. I'm just going to delete that actually. I'm going to go back to our 0 frame, because in Anime Studio everything happens if you have to do things on the 0 frame. And then I'm going to put this one back in and put it up here. Let's see what happens. That looks pretty good, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to resize her mouth a little bit. Maybe move it up. And let's see what happens now. And I think I'm going to rotate it a little bit. And I mean, you know, this is like something you can fix yourself when you're doing it. And now also we need to know that this is a big, humongous thing. So it's like 400 frames. So we go over here and put 400. Go back to the beginning and
So I've been given some questions to answer today. What type of underwear do I prefer to wear and why? Definitely black. Black is really sexy. Thinks I look like black.
that looks pretty good. And now we can just animate her. So reset our view. And I think we should move her down a little bit, like this, maybe even like that. And let's set her up. So she's ready to go, and let's see, we got so let's go to here and move her arm, and as you can see we've got points here, and Now you can see it's slow.
Hey.
Now what we can do is we can take this and move it here so it's quick. So I'm going to go and animate it and see what, moving things around, and let's see what we come up with.
Hey, so I've been given some questions to answer for you today. What type of underwear do I prefer to wear and why? Definitely black, because black is really sleek and sexy. Let's face it, I look good in black.
Okay, so now you've seen the video. What could I have done a little bit different? I think I probably could have made the legs a little longer, and I probably could have put a bend maybe here, made this of 2 parts so I could allow it to bend. Now of course that's going to make it more difficult because then you're going to have to try and match the black line, and then maybe at that point I would not do outlines of the color. I would not do the black outline. I would just have like a solid color. That way if you have a bend, say here, you don't have to try and match up the black line, which is really a big pain in the neck when you're animating. But actually it turned out pretty good. And so really this is just like I say, this is a way using GIMP to do tracing. You could easily use other programs, Draw Plus, the Starter Edition, and Inkscape, and there's dozens of other programs out there, and I've listed them in one of my other tutorials.